Hey, how you doing? It's Pat here. We're going to be working on the wife's bike today. I am going to try to figure out how to get this Zumo XT mounted to her bike. I bought a bracket from Evotech. The instructions are anything but clear. I know the first thing we have to do is get rid of this windshield. So let's see how this is going to be. And one of the most important tools, old man glasses. I gotta have these or I just can't see squat anymore. All right, let's figure out how hard I can make this look. Okay, to get rid of these top bolts, now be careful, they are spring loaded. You're gonna need 2 Allen wrenches for this. Now, I'm not sure, but if you see, this has a shoulder on it. For all I know, these bolts could be different. I don't know yet, but it's nice to pay attention to things like that. If nothing else, the BMWs have taught me that, because sometimes you got 2 bolts side by sides and they're completely different. All right. That bracket comes out. By the way, I've never had this off before, so I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing. Just don't force anything. If you're forcing things, odds are you're gonna break something. So let's take that out. It looks like it has the same shoulder, but I'm not 100% certain. Yeah, these bolts look the same. Now, as always with any how-to, use this video at your own risk. It's for information, entertainment purposes only. No warranties or guarantees are offered and or implied. All right, I'm not sure what to do next, so when I figure it out, I'll be back. One thing I do want to point out is if you take the bolts off from this side, they are spring loaded, and that's what allows this to go up and down when you're lowering and raising your windshield. So make sure you take it apart from this side if you don't want to deal with that. All right, it appears that this piece needs to come out next. And I believe it's just in there with grommets. Sure didn't like how that sounded, but actually I think that one did crack. That one did crack. Wow. Talk about fragile, holy crap. So be careful when you're doing that. Might have to buy another one of these. Well, that sucks. All right, I know I've shown you how bad these directions look, but now this piece has to come off. And it just slides up and out. So that's pretty simple. Even I can't screw that up. So I'm gonna take a break, clean a little bit of this bug juice while I'm here. All right, looks like the next thing I'm supposed to do is take these 4 bolts out. And then I think something over here comes off. I don't know, it's hard to tell. I guess I should tell you what size this is, shouldn't I? It is a 5mm. That's what I've used for the windshield and now these screws. And these are not overly tight, so remember that when you put it back on. Don't go torquing it down till everything breaks off. Again, we're going to make sure all 4 bolts are the same. Nobody's different. That way we make sure to put them back in the exact same spot. All right, that's just a regular bolt, all threaded, no shoulder. Same thing here. All 4 bolts seem to be identical, which is another good thing. All right, that whole thing is off. Now what do? I don't know. Okay, it looks like these little nuts, for lack of a better word, are supposed to come off. Even though they're not really nuts. They're like those little just metal clips. But how they come off, I don't know. It says just slide them out. Okay. I think I figured it out. Just get you a small screwdriver. Yep, it's starting to move. And then, I guess if you have enough grip strength, you can probably get this out, but let me show you what that looks like. I hope the camera focuses in on that. We have to remove both of them. Still not sure why, but I guess I don't have to know why, just do it, right? Okay, now we'll go back to the instructions and see what's next. Okay, I don't know if it's gonna show up. Where do I put my light? Hopefully this helps, but I think I've got to take out these 2 screws, and I think they're 8mm. Yep. All right. Wow, those had very, very little torque on them, so be careful if you got to put them back in. All right, I guess nothing special about that screw. No washers or anything. I think I'll put just a tab of blue Loctite on this when I put it back together. I mean, it really took 0 effort to break these bolts loose, so I mean, I'm only going to assume that Triumph put the proper amount of torque on them, which is very, very little. Okay, that bolt is the same. Okay, now I'll be back when I figure out what's next. Okay, I know you can't see it with this view right now, but this whole bracket is mostly loose. It holds the speedo, but there's a bolt over here, and I will reposition the camera in a minute to try to show you what they're talking about. Get some light on this so you can see, but right here is the other bolt, and this whole bracket will move because that's what it's telling me what to do next. And this has another one of those spring nuts, for lack of a better word. I don't know what the proper terminology for those types of nuts are, but it basically says to move it forward and get it out of the way like that. I'm assuming right now we're going to reuse this bracket based on what that looks like, but I don't know yet. And you know what they say about assuming. Oh, by the way, the screw looks the same as what the other screws over here did. But I'm still, just for now, to keep it separate, I'm going to put it back in this hole. Just in case, and whenever possible, that's always a good rule of thumb. When in doubt, put the bolts back in the empty holes if you can. Okay, if I'm looking at things right, I'm thinking that is gonna go here. And that's where those spring nuts were, so I'll actually put some bolts that they provided me that I don't have in my hand yet. And you've got this wire in the way here, but it looks like I've got other bolts that are gonna go through here, but there's a big gap there. So I'm assuming that gap fits that perfectly. So I think what I have to do first is put these bolts in, and then put all that back together. Let me go get some bolts and figure things out. And I believe these are the right bolts, and they take a 4mm. They go into here. And remember, never tighten the bolts up first. Just get them snugged in. So I think these are the right ones. It's not like the instructions are overly clear, but they seem to fit. And those holes seem to line up. Let me go get the other bolts. One thing I did forget to mention is you get these little star washers that are kind of like a lock washer. Don't forget to put one of those on one of each of these and one of each of those. I need to have a light person right now for me. So let's see. Okay. All right, I need to free some hams up. I'll be back in a minute when I figure this out. Okay, what I think I figured out is do not put those screws in yet. Just kind of get everything sort of back where it was. At least I think I'm doing it right this time. I'm still not 100% sure. Because it does say to get this bolt back in. So we're gonna go ahead and start that dude. Which he started, but loose. Now, let me get my handy dandy flashlight here. Okay, now it looks like everybody lines up right. Yep, so that's the secret. Don't put any bolts in that. Get that one screw here started first, then you can do the rest of this. All right, I'll bring in my hair by hand. What I'm having an issue with is getting those bolt holes to line up. So what I've done is I've just hand tightened this bolt to get that to line up. Now I'm going to try to put that bracket back on and we'll see if it works. So far, I've had no luck getting those bolts to start. All right, believe it or not, I actually got that bolt started. You're gonna have to be very, very patient. This is extremely difficult to get those holes to line up and very easy to cross thread. I put a super tiny amount of blue Loctite on there. Believe it or not, it started. All right, that's finger tight. I'll just do a super tiny amount of Loctite on this dude too. Like I said, remember, these bolts did not have a whole lot of torque on them, so do not go crazy putting them back together. All right, that's the installation of the bracket. Other than just tightening these up a little bit. Well, at least I see why you gotta move these. Now, keep all these parts someplace safe. That way if you ever go to sell the bike, if you want, you can take this back off or you can give it to the new owner. All right, wow. That is rock solid. All right, I'm gonna go get the other piece. All right, getting some light on this subject. I tried to film this and I thought I did a good job, but it didn't come through. But this little piece right here bolts onto this piece right here. So there's two screws that bolt onto here and to here. And then, if you look up inside of here, there's spacers that those bolts go through, and they do thread into here. I just like using the nylock nuts as double secure connection, but there was not enough room for nylock nuts on the bottom side, so I just used a tiny bit of blue Loctite, and that is how all that's put together. The key to this piece right here is there is a recessed area, and that recess will face the Zumo mount. And here you can see the factory mount. That's this piece with the bolts that go through to the back side that I was just talking about. Okay, now this is the bracket that goes onto the TriplTek, and I showed you this earlier, but there are not room for the nuts, even though there's nuts here. I like to have extra nuts because I'm paranoid. It's a motorcycle, and this is the power supply. And what I am going to do is I'm going to have to come back in a day or two and film this because I don't have the parts right now. But basically, I have a battery tender installed on here that the dealership installed. I am going to buy the other side of that plug, wire it to this, and then plug it in. Now, be careful. You can get the polarity backwards. So if you don't know anything about electricity on how to do this, don't hire somebody. Because if you get it backwards, best case scenario, you destroy your GPS. Worst case scenario, you destroy the bike's ECU. So if you're not sure how to do this, don't. I prefer to have my GPS on a non-switched power source, but if you're gonna wire it directly to the battery, which is basically what I'm doing, except I'm going through an existing plug, red goes to your positive, black goes to your negative. Like I said, if you're not sure, don't do it. Now, they ship this with these thumb screws, which is, on a scale of 1 to 10, as a good idea, is a -3, because it's okay to put it on here for now temporarily like this. And this is pretty much as far as I'm going to go right now, because I'm not going to show you reassembling this. You saw how it went apart or came apart. You should just be able to figure out how to put back together. But what I am going to do with these thumb screws is I will use them like this to get it set to where the wife likes it. And then I'm going to replace these thumb screws with some type of actual bolt, because my philosophy is this is supposed to be secure. That's part of the reason we do this. We have the locking mount to help keep it secure and to help keep it on the bike. But these make it a lot easier to steal, because all you have to do is take the wire cutter, snip, thumb screw, you're gone in a matter of 20 seconds. At least with bolts that you need tools, in my opinion, it makes it more secure. So, in a nutshell, there it is. It looks pretty good. This isn't the final part of the video, but it's the final part for today anyway. And I will be back later. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go get the GPS and come back and just show you that here in just a few minutes. But I'm gonna come back later and I'm gonna figure out how I wanna route this wire. And let me show you this. Basically, you see, hold on, let me get still. All right, there. Right here is the plug that already goes down to the battery. So you gotta make sure you know which is positive, which is negative, because right now I don't know which is which. I'll have to use my multimeter to figure it out. But I'm gonna use a plug like this, and I will show you later on how I'm gonna wire this. But user beware, this is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Your individual results may vary. Okay, I'm gonna do this handheld for a minute, but hindsight, I should have run that wire along the side, because when it goes under here, it just barely got under this bracket without pinching. Then you can see, I hope you can see anyway, I ran it down through there. I ran it down through there, and I was able to fish it down through the tank and come through here into there. And this is the plug. Let me try to do this without screwing everything up. This is the battery tender plug that I have another one. I'm going to wire into that so I can plug in directly. So again, be careful in your polarity. If you get it backwards, maybe nothing happens. Maybe your GPS blows up. Maybe your ECU blows up. I don't know, so be careful. A really quick little side note. If you take this screw out and this screw out, you can take this panel off and it actually lifts off like this. Doesn't pull out, it pushes up like this. It sure makes it a whole lot easier to come off. That's how I was able to fish that wire down through there. It was a chore, but I got it done. Alright, having a hand hold this, but there she is. She's in there, nice and secure. And it took me a long time to find it, but the button is really hard to get to under here. All right, as we were saying, here's our Zumo XT. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, by the way. Get her all nice and snapped in. Squeeze her closed. Maybe. Nope, I can't do this one-handed. Hold on a minute. Okay. All right, when you have her closed, you see those two pieces of metal right there surrounding the Garmin? That's what locks it in place. So that's what it does when it unlocks. And that button is really hard to get to up under there, but that's okay, I guess. Now, I can only do one side right now, but that's how it acts when it locks. So when she's locked like this, you can just turn the key, and now you're about as secure as you possibly can be. All right, we're looking behind glass now, but here's the finished product. I wanted to show you from this angle because I used their bar. I wish I would have thought of it while I had it apart to put the original bar back on to make sure it would work. So I honestly don't know that. But the Garmin is on here. I don't have it locked right now. I was just playing around and I don't even have it very secure this way. But anyway, it's on here. It's wired. I had to go back and put the dust cover back on to tear everything back apart because I kind of forgot that step. But anyway, it is on there like that. So now the one problem I see is there's very little room up here to get the key in. I think that might be a little bit of a problem. Then the way I chose to install this was with this connector here for the pre-existing pigtail that goes to the battery for the battery tender. Now be warned, if you do this, these are pretty much a standard layout. So let's see if I can unplug this one-handed because I'm just kind of filming this freehand right now. But anyway, hold on, I'll be right back when I get it unplugged. Okay, now don't take this as the Bible because maybe somebody could wire it backwards, but generally speaking, this bare connector goes to the battery's negative terminal and this covered connector goes to the battery's positive terminal. That being said, this comes kind of color-coded the same way, but now I have created this and this have to be backwards from this and this to keep the polarity the same. So this bare connector is now the positive wire going to the GPS, and this cover connector is now the minus connector going to the GPS. But be very careful wiring this. If you're not very attentive and sure of what you're doing, you can easily get it backwards, and who knows what may or may not be damaged. I have no idea. Maybe nothing gets damaged, maybe your GPS fries, maybe your ECU fries, no idea. It should show up. I went ahead and locked it because I can't do that one-handed. You can see the battery's about dead in this thing. So if I go down here, and there ain't no chance of me doing this one-handed, I don't believe. Yeah, maybe there is, I don't know, we'll see. All right. It isn't plugged together right, so don't leave it like this. But it is enough. You can see that the battery is in fact charging and now my GPS has power. All right, I have the old wife's keychain here. And I obviously can't see a thing like this, so doing it this way is probably going to be impossible. I have the windshield up all the way right now. And let me get a little off topic, but that's another negative of this setup, is you kind of lose the handlebar to raise and lower this. So it won't be near as easy to do as it was. All right, let's try to film through the glass here. And as I get the key in here, it is anything but simple. So this is a major negative of this setup. There, we got it in there. And I'm sure if I wasn't holding the camera, it might be a little easier to do, but there you see, I can get it in, I can get it out, but it is a real pain in the butt. And the reason I bring this back up, it's important to put this on because this piece has to slip over that, so you have to do it before you install that, is because when you're out traveling or even here at home when you're stored for the winter, Easier said than done as always, but you want to keep the dust cover on those terminals just to keep them clean, keep them from getting wet. Alright, we're going to do this handheld just because I don't feel like going and getting my tripod. What do I think of this overall? I would give it 7.5 out of 10, just because it's kind of in the way of the windscreen now, and it does make it a little bit hard to lock and unlock. That's a little bit worse than what I expected. Let's get the windshield here. You still can do it this way, so you can still raise and lower it. I just don't think it's going to be as nice as it was before, but fortunately it's not something the wife likes to raise and lower a whole lot. I don't see it being that big of a deal. Alright, so if you would, give me a thumbs up for this video. If you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. And if you have any questions on this unit and how I did anything, I'll do my best to answer your questions, and I try to respond to all comments, sometimes sooner than later. But anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.